Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the INFP Corner. Today I am recommending horror movies for all of you guys. Alright, starting with the ISTJ. I Saw the Devil is a Korean vengeance thriller that I thought was perfect for the ISTJs SINTE. It's about a guy whose wife, or no, fiance, gets kidnapped and murdered by a serial killer, and for the rest of the movie, he's bent on revenge. Also, I think something like Oldboy might also appeal to the ISTJ. For the ESTJ, I thought of his TE and NE as something that would be brutal and hilarious at the same time, so I am recommending Man Bites Dog, which is a Belgian dark comedy movie about a documentary crew who follows around a notorious serial killer. I mean, at first they're just recording this serial killer in this absurdist scenario, but eventually they start to help him and become the accomplice to his crimes. And as funny and random as this premise is, it does become extremely violent and graphic, so I think that something like that would be perfect for the ESTJ. And okay, for INTJ, I thought maybe I'm a little bit biased because I know which horror movies Alex likes to watch, and she tends to like movies which have a good ending, like an ending that ties everything up perfectly into like a nice and high point. So I am recommending The Silence of the Lambs for sure. I think Silence of the Lambs is one of the best movies, not just horror movies, but one of the best films of all time. And actually, you know how Hannibal Lecter is a stickler for courtesy and being polite? I think that's perfect for the INTJ's FE blind spot. Okay, some other movies kind of like this that ties together everything neatly at the end would be maybe The Others, which has a really nice twist, Session 9, and maybe even the Saw movies. For the ENTJ, TE, and SE, I thought of something that's definitely rooted in reality, so like no ghosts or any of that, and something extremely violent and brutal, so I definitely thought of Hostel, and I know an ENTJ who loves Hostel. And movies like it are perhaps the Poughkeepsie tapes and an interesting movie called Angst, which is also just basically a criminal gets released from prison and he immediately goes on a killing spree once again. Yeah, so all three movies are rooted in reality and they're quite graphic, and I thought that the ENTJ might enjoy this. Okay, moving on to the FJs. For the high FE users, I definitely thought of social horror. So basically, the devil you know kind of thing. Crimes that your loved ones could commit. For the ISFJ, I thought of Rosemary's Baby. Really, this woman is basically alone, and it feels like everyone is against her. Meanwhile, this horrifying thing is happening to the inside of her body. So I couldn't think of anything better than the ISFJ. And maybe a more modern one would be The Orphan. Also, I think like higher SI users, they have a higher potential to be religious. So for the ESFJ, I definitely thought of The Omen. I think both versions of the film are excellent, and there are some truly creepy, almost Final Destination-like moments. A runner-up would be Misery, which is definitely a case of FE gone wrong. It's basically this woman who pretty much kidnaps her idol. She tries to make him like her, but basically she's like trapping him in this closed space, and it's just horrifying. For the INFJ, I thought of some horror movie that would just be like the most non-FE thing possible, but something that's leading to like an NI goal. So I thought of Martyrs, which is a really heartbreaking horror movie. There's like a lot of gore, a lot of torture, but it is all for a purpose, which I can't really say right now because that would kind of ruin the ending. Anyway, I think it's just a film that would totally make you lose faith in humanity. I can't think of anything more horrifying to the INFJ than that. Maybe some movies like this would be Suicide Club by Xiang Sono, Irreversible, and maybe even something more fun like Hard Candy. For the ENFJ, for some reason I thought of the nuclear family disintegrating, so I definitely thought of Cold Fish, which, if you like American Beauty, Cold Fish is kind of like American Beauty, except instead of Kevin Spacey becoming more and more assertive, it's the head of the household, this guy, is becoming more and more, well, murderous. Actually, this director, Xiang Sono, I feel like all of his horror movies are just perfect for the FJs in the world. For the ISTP, I thought of something that starts off as a logical invention, but then leads to SE horror and terror. And for that, I thought of The Fly. The practical effects are brilliant, it is truly disturbing, and the relationship between the main character and the supporting character makes this all worthwhile. I couldn't really think what to do for ESTP, but for some reason I thought out of all the types, probably ESTP would be very likely to go on a caving expedition. And thankfully, there's this film called The Descent, which is really well done. It's horrifying, suspenseful, the creatures are pretty creepy, and there's a lot of like SE jump scares. And I believe it's like a very physical film because people are running and getting away from these monsters. For the logical INTP, I definitely didn't want to make a recommendation that has anything to do with like ghosts or serial killers, but something that is more mechanical. And I really like this movie called Cube, not to be confused with The Cube. Basically, it's like think of a Rubik's Cube, and each chamber is like this torture chamber, and these people are inexplicably trapped in there and trying to get out. The whole movie kind of unfolds like a logical puzzle, so while you're watching the movie, you're kind of trying to figure out how to escape as well, which I think would be a fun brain exercise for the INTP's TI. For the ENTP, I definitely thought of a horror movie that just makes fun of all horror movies. I honestly don't think ENTPs really get afraid much, so I recommended Cabin in the Woods, which is an extremely clever satire of a movie that makes fun of all horror movie tropes. And as such, all the different genres of horror movies kind of converge in this one horror movie, which is obviously perfect for the ENTP's high in E as well. Moving on to the FPs. FPs were all over the place with their FI, so it really depends on kind of what you like. But for the ISFP, without a doubt, I would recommend Suspiria, because honestly, every frame of that movie is like a painting. You have really beautiful, lush colors, and that was the only reason I recommended this one. It's a visual extravaganza, and the cinematography and lighting is just spectacular. For the ESFP, I'm actually recommending a movie that I never saw, but I'm gonna see it like as soon as possible. It's called Raw, and just based on the trailer, I thought of it as some horrible thing that could happen to your body, so it's very FI, and horrendous things to your body, which is very SE. And visually, this trailer just looks amazing. And I thought of the ESFP, and a movie that seems to be kind of on a similar level, although this might be more of like a psychological thriller, would be Neon Demon. Again, very beautiful colors, lots of weird, gory stuff happening, which definitely makes me think of FI and SE. For the INFP, an interesting film I wanted to recommend was Antibodies. The premise of this film is basically that evil is like a disease that can spread from one person to the next via ideas. So you have this like very nice guy, I guess, at the beginning who goes and interviews the serial killer, and slowly the serial killer's ideas and like ideologies kind of seep into his mind, and he becomes worse and worse as the film goes on. For the idealist INFP, I thought that's just a perfect theme. And there's plenty of twists and turns in the movie as well to keep your NE satisfied. Also, I think one of the scariest things for an INFP is to know that something's true but have no one else believe you. So for that reason, I'm also recommending The Grudge. Probably most of you have already seen The Grudge and have mixed feelings about it, but I would actually recommend specifically Drawn The Grudge 2, the 2003 one, yeah, like this one. For some reason, I personally find that this specific one is just extra creepy and extra horrible, and I think it's episodic as well. There's like little vignettes of horror which will keep your NE entertained. For the ENFP, I thought of something that would keep your NE entertained once again, so like lots of twists and turns, lots of stuff happening, and also something that explores like this huge array of human condition, IFI. Taking a risk here, I'm recommending Visitor Q, which is by Takashi Miike. Not many people have watched this movie, but it's actually one of my favorite movies. Guys, it is so messed up. It is pretty much the strangest, most effed up movie I've ever seen in my life. And I thought for some reason that the ENFPs and ENFI is the one type that could handle it. Well, I guess you all could, but it's a challenge. It's basically about a family that's extremely dysfunctional, and then one guest visitor comes into the family and changes everything. And basically, this film, although it is pretty gory and graphic, it's more disturbing than scary, I would say. As well, I thought about multiple personality disorder as well, so I'm gonna also recommend the movie Split, which was really like not perfect, but it was a lot of fun. And the last one is pretty biased. It's because I watched this film with my ENFP friend, and she was horrified. She got scared so easily. And this film, which I think is more funny than scary, is Grave Encounters. Basically, a bunch of people are trapped in this insane asylum because they're trying to like make this documentary, and a bunch of horrifying things happen. Well, let me know if you've watched any of these movies and if you like them or dislike them. And let me know if you're gonna take any of my recommendations to watch on Halloween or thereafter. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.